Artie?
She's not here, so what's that?
Oh, I see.
Artie couldn't be here. I saw Craig's topic, evaluate this, and I just had to follow the instructions, so I'm going to be evaluating this. So Craig's topic is project number 2, organize your speech. Good speech organization is essential for the audience to follow and understand your presentation. So Craig will be focusing on selecting an appropriate outline to allow listeners to follow the progression through his speech, and creating a strong opening and conclusion will be key. Craig, on a personal note, has spent many years as a securities analyst working in the investment industry, but recently he started working in media research at a startup company in Mountain View. He's been a member of Flyingtoasters for about a year, and he served as the president and the vice president of education in that time. So I'm looking forward to Craig enlightening us on evaluating speeches. And hopefully I'll learn something before I evaluate them.
Thank you, Mr. Evaluator, Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. Bugs Bunny had his Roadrunner. Batman had his Joker. Superman had his Kryptonite. And of course, for all of us, Toastmasters have their evaluations. These are all antagonistic, stressful relationships that we have to deal with. I was the former VP of Education of this club for about 6 months, and every week I would dutifully pass around the sign-up sheets, asking people to sign up for roles. And what typically happened is all the roles would get filled in, except at the bottom of that sheet, where I asked for evaluators, nothing but blanks. I detected a pattern. So what I wanted to do tonight is just give you some very tangible tips that I've learned over the years giving evaluations that hopefully take away some of that tension and that you'll be more confident giving valuations in the future when you do so. So what this is, kind of a lightning talk, 5 tips in the next 5 minutes on how to evaluate. Tip number 1, of course, is borrowed from the Boy Scouts. Be prepared. I don't think anybody would come up here and give a speech out of the manual without doing some preparation. And I think the same thing applies when you're giving an evaluation. You're giving a mini speech. It's a little 2 to 3 minute speech, but it really does help to be prepared. A couple of ways that I've prepared in the past is by talking to the speaker that I'll be evaluating, either at the end of the prior week's meeting, just to get to know him or her. What are your personal objectives? What are you trying to accomplish here in your speech? If you don't get a chance, you can always email them and ask the same questions. And if that doesn't work out, you can always corner him before the meeting, if you have 5 minutes or so, and just learn a little bit about what that speaker is trying to accomplish. It'll really build your confidence in giving an evaluation if you know what the speaker is trying to do and you know a little bit about the personal objectives. The other thing that works well is you can flip through the manual that the speaker will hand you and read prior evaluations. Read what other evaluators have said about the speaker and written down. Then you'll have more background information about what you should be thinking about and what you should be listening for when you get that evaluation. So you're well prepared. Now what do? The speaker is up here and you're on the hook. You're evaluating. This is live. This is going real time. Well, what I try to do is write everything down. And when I say everything, I mean everything. Don't just sit back and be passive and say, well, I'm going to kind of take this in and something's going to form in my mind and I'm just going to enjoy it and there's going to be this synthesized thought by the time the speech is over. That's pretty risky. You can get pulled into the speech and you'll start thinking of stuff, making mental notes. But if you're not writing everything down, believe me, you're going to forget it when it comes time to present the evaluation. I went through some of my old evaluation forms from prior meetings. And what I tend to do is kind of a personal approach, is I write down any point, kind of stream of consciousness as I'm listening to the speaker. And I put a little plus sign next to the stuff that I think is a positive point I want to make, a little minus sign next to the stuff that is an area for improvement. And I do this from the get-go, even beforehand. So So by the time the speech is over, I've got 15, 20, 25 little pluses and minuses on my sheet. And then organizing the evaluation is a piece of cake. You have 10 minutes or so during table topics. You just review your notes. Pick out 3 of the pluses, 2 or 3 of the minuses, organize it in the traditional sandwich approach, positive, negative, positive, and you're good to go. And I've done this over and over, and it's really worked well for me. Just a little trick, you can try it. If it doesn't work great for you, maybe something else will work, but that's served me pretty well. So step number 3 is you're up here. You're well prepared. You've taken down all your notes. You're good to go. Now you're standing here for 2 to 3 minutes. What should you do? What I like to think of is that I'm evaluating not the speaker, but the speech. Now this is important for a couple of reasons. First of all, you're not there to judge. You're not there to judge the person, if he's a strong or weak person. You're really evaluating the speech. A very strong person can deliver a weak speech and vice versa. The other benefit of this is by detaching yourself from the personal connection, you can be a lot more objective, and it's actually a lot less awkward when you're evaluating the speech. Instead of saying, you're disorganized, Craig, and you really got confused there, just say the speech was a little disorganized here. The audience may have gotten a bit confused there. And it detaches the speaker from the areas for improvement. It's a lot more comfortable to deliver such a speech when you're thinking that you're evaluating the speech, not the speaker. The other thing that I've tended to notice in here is people give their evaluations in the second person. It's something like this. They'll say, Surab, your speech was really interesting. You really grabbed my attention at the beginning. I thought your pace was really good, Surab. Surab, I really did like how you organized the speech, and I think you should have. That actually happens. Don't use the second person. Bear in mind the speaker is just one member of the audience. It's awkward for the speaker, and it's awkward for you if you're addressing people in the second person. Bear in mind we all take turns giving speeches here, so just address the whole audience. We can all learn from the points that you're going to make. Finally, or fourth of all, there's a little bit of a personal pet peeve here, and that has to do with not really getting to know the speaker very well. We kind of fall into this trap where we say, Craig Wood, evaluate this, Craig Wood. Kind of that formulaic approach to introducing the speaker that's used in contests. There's good reason to be doing that in a contest because you don't want to be biasing the judges with a personal introduction. But we're okay here. We're not being judged. You can get to know the speaker a little bit. Give them a personal introduction, like Paul did with me, where they're from, what they do for a living, what's one interesting fact about them. That also helps reinforce point number 1, which is to be prepared. Because once you prepare a personal introduction, you know a little bit about the speaker. We used to do that. We kind of fell out of habit in the last year or so, so it'd be cool if we started doing that again. And finally, practice, practice, practice. I've given a lot of evaluations over the years. I've competed at club contests, area contests, division contests, and there really is a point to having plenty of practice under your belt. Andre Agassi, the great tennis player, wrote an autobiography a few years ago, and he said that he tries to hit 3,000 tennis balls every day. His 3,000 balls a day adds up to about 1 million hits a year, and he felt to be a world-class player, he had to be hitting 1 million balls a year. Now don't take that too literally. You don't have to do 1 million of anything every year. But the idea is the more often you get up here, the more comfortable you're going to be, the more confident you're going to be, and it really is going to be reflected in better evaluation. So those are the 5 points. Be prepared, write down everything, evaluate the speech, not the speaker, introduce the speaker and get to know him, and practice, practice, practice. And with that, you can all be Superman and not worry about the kryptonite. Got it.